questions that are being asked, I'd like to mostly address, so this is my preference, is questions that affect how you walk. Questions about living this out. What he's always told me is, tell them that if they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, they'll be where they're supposed to be. But you need a teacher to teach you what it is you need to be doing. All right, Rick.
When did this notion of kingdom, millennium, heaven, a reward after death, when did that come about?
There's a lot of language in both the Old and the New that talk about the idea of the Olam Haba, the age to come. There's the phrase called, so your life will be prolonged, which has, again, it's an idiomatic phrase that was always understood as having a forever time, okay? So there's not a lot, maybe not even anything, of really overt verses that specifically address this in that way, okay? But when we look into the way that the language was used and the idiomatic phrases of the time, we can see what they were talking about, all right? Now, as far as the kingdom is talked about throughout the New Testament on a regular basis, okay? The kingdom is absolutely talked about, and the millennium is talked about. I mean, at least in the one place where, in Revelation where it says, and he will rule and reign 1,000 years. That's the millennium, okay?
So Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they had no knowledge of this kingdom or Olam Haba, right? The promise he had was many nations.
We have very limited stuff written about the conversations that were had. For example, when Noah is told to put clean and unclean animals in separate numbers on the ark, we never see a conversation where he was ever told what a clean animal was and what an unclean animal was. So there were conversations happening that were not documented, okay? So we don't have any way to know what was and wasn't explained to who at whatever point. All right, Odini.
Yes, if you permit me a moment, I'd like to create a context for my question.
Okay.
So my question revolves around community. I was raised in a church where we called each other brother and sister, so it's brother this, brother that, sister this. It was an environment where at least minimally I knew what the interior of each person's house looked like. So that was the nature of our relationship, where I could tell what their kitchen furniture was like.
Did you ever get caught sneaking in?
No.
And
absolutely not.
I just want to make sure.
But that was the nature of our relationship.
No, what he's saying is that people got invited over to each other's houses, so they knew, at least having been there, that they had at least enough relationship that they'd been to each other's houses.
Yes. Thank you for that clarification.
Invited, not uninvited.
Thank you.
Yes.
I don't want to be labeled as a stalker, So, yeah.
So there was no breaking and entering. There was, okay, we're good.
Thank you. So from time to time, we had engagements together. So there may be a picnic or a beach trip of some sort, maybe a concert. From time to time, there would be things like fish fries. We had Sunday night service. We had Wednesday fasting, prayer meeting Wednesday nights, Friday evening Bible study, and Sabbath service was like 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. most weeks. So we were always engaged at some capacity throughout the week. My question is, if you could, for me, based on the way I process information, paint a picture of what community would be like. So for example, for the Messianic Torah Observant Israelite, a week in the life of Torah pursuant individual in community based on the Father's expectation, if you will.
All right, so first of all, the stuff that you described, apparently these are people that really wanted a much more social agenda than the actual work of transformation, because that's a lot of times what happens when you have a lot of church activities that people get very busy with. The Maybe they liked each other as a group more than we like each other here. We have a lot of issues. Okay, we have people here with a lot of issues and really struggle to build relationships with each other. You might show up to a picnic. We had a lot of people show up to the picnic we just did, okay, as part of Shavuot, and we'll probably get a bunch of you to show up in the one in July, okay? That being said, though, it's another social thing that a lot of people won't show up to. Now, some people work when we do these things and they can't come. But some of you really struggle socially, and it's not just that you don't like people. I mean, some of you really just struggle socially. You struggle with social interaction. You're uncomfortable with it, all right? Look, I'll speak for myself. If I wasn't the head of all this, I probably wouldn't show up at everything. I don't really like to do a lot of social things, okay? So nothing personal to any of you guys. I mean, it doesn't matter what group I'm in. I would be probably less likely to show up at everything that gets done than some people because I'm just not as social a person. I'm not saying I'm shy. I'm just, that's not my thing is those kind of things. I'm much more of a worker and I'm there as a helper. So look, we go to the picnic. What did I do the entire picnic? I counsel people because that's what I like to do. That's how it makes me feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, okay? And some of you are like, oh, feel bad for me because I'm not enjoying the picnic. No, I'm happier there counseling than I would be trying to enjoy the picnic, all right? But that's me. We have a bunch of people like that here too. But we also have a hard time really tolerating people being different, tolerating people struggling in different ways than we struggle and them tolerating us. And we're just not quite there. So I think we should be much more, so now to answer your question, okay, as far as what that should look like. I think first of all, you should come to everything you can come to that we try to do as a community. So for example, you should be here Friday nights if you can, especially for the community aspect of dinner at 6 o'clock, okay? Not just showing up at 7:30 for the study, but to be here for the 6 o'clock meal, okay? That is a social thing we can do together. We've had people in the past that are like, oh, well, it's a very special time for me and my family and we do our thing at home. Fine, do that every other week. Then at least come some of the time. Or have that special time with your family on a different day. Because you're missing the community opportunities to fellowship, especially when it's summertime and sundown is late enough that you can talk about anything. You can really be social. Same thing with the wintertime. If you come to Saturday service like today and you plan to eat with us afterwards, which you should, not just leave, some people just leave, and then stay after that even longer to talk about almost anything you want to talk about because again, sundown is very early in the winter, and so after we eat, it's after sundown. You can talk about anything, okay? And so this is part of the social aspect of community. And so when we had a ladies' thing. Officially, originally it was for seniors, okay? But then we opened it up to the other ladies. We still only had like 10 or 12 people show up. We have a lot more women in this group than 12, okay? Now I know some people work on Sunday, and it was a Sunday afternoon thing. But how much do you want to be with each other is something Odini's kind of asking about, because I think that's why those groups did more than we do. They just wanted to be with each other more. Okay, I don't know why we don't. Has nothing to do with our belief system in terms of Torah observant or not Torah observant. It's just the people that are involved here, okay? And they were raised also in a very social way. If you grew up in church, you were raised in a much more social way than we do here, because that's what church was more about. And they had things happening all the time. And it's funny because they say, well, we're not into required rituals. Well, you do have them. You have your Wednesday thing and your Friday thing and your Sunday thing and your this thing and your that thing that you guys all do, okay? Because most churches do something on Wednesday night, okay? And so when we started doing our Bible studies, we did them on Tuesday night because we didn't want to do it on Wednesday like everybody else, just to get out of that mindset, right? And so we used to do Torah Tuesdays. We used to do it on Tuesday nights. Now we do it on Friday night with the dinner that we get together to provide more opportunity for social. You know how many people are here on a Friday night? 30, maybe 40 at the most, somewhere between 20 and 30 a lot of the times. I know some people are like, well, but it's sundowns later now and I can get a whole lot of stuff done, but why are you not prioritizing being with each other? I don't understand. I'm not scolding you. You have your reasons. I'm trying to answer Odini's question, okay? you guys just don't have that need, or you're not drawn to that. Again, I'm not judging it. I'm not that way either. If I didn't have to be here, I probably would be struggling with feeling like I need to be here, okay? So I get that. I can relate to that. But you know what I would do, though? I'd be here anyway. Why? Because that's what the group is supposed to do in terms of learning how to be a group. I would show up anyway, okay? And I think that's important to have that happen, you know? There are times elders' family will eat at home or they'll eat out on the way here. He'll still show up for the meal, to be here to socially interact with us, to be here for the Erev Shabbat service, even though his family may have eaten already. Okay, or maybe his wife is home with the kids because there's something going on with the kids. He'll still come. So you're like, well, it's his job. It's not really in his job description that he has to be here. It's part of our community building activities. So I know Odini, he's got a presentation of like 100 pages of all the things that we could do trying to build community here as far as interacting. And maybe we'll get to some of that, but my problem, Odini, is I'm not sure everybody's gonna, or hardly anybody's gonna do any of this stuff. We're just either too busy or too something to really want to get that close to each other. So what does this look like for everybody else? Get close to a few people at least. Get to know some people at least. Invite some different people over your house, or go out, and if you don't want to have them at your house, go out and do something. Go get coffee somewhere or do something light and easy together. All right, so you at least get to know everybody a little bit, okay? That's what I think at least we should be doing. Because if we're going to spend forever together and we don't even really enjoy each other's company now, what are we doing? Okay? And some of you are like, oh, well, I'm not going to want to go to this congregation. I'll go to this other one down the road, this very Christian-looking sort of Saturday one, where everybody acts like they love being together for everything. Because they sound just like the church you used to go to. And that's how they all act. But it's surface. It's, you know, you guys are seriously, hopefully trying to working on yourselves, and that's kind of hard to do and still deal with people. Okay? All right. Selena.
Okay, I've got two questions. The first one, I kind of ran into something on Shavuot. Anytime I make an appointment with somebody and it's kind of several weeks out, I always tell them to put me on the cancellation list. That's just how I do. And Monday, right before we got here, this lady called. I didn't answer. I didn't recognize the number, but then my phone like transcribed the voicemail and I could just read it. Like it just popped up on the phone. I don't know. It was weird. And I didn't call her back. I asked Tommy what to do. He's like, you could call her back or not. And I'm like, she'll figure it out when I don't call her back. But she texted when, I guess I was sitting over here during the announcements, and she texted, asked if I wanted the appointment. And I just said, I'm not available. Should I have not texted her back? I didn't really know what to do.
All right, so I'll give you two different answers. First answer is, I would not have been dealing with anything on Shabbat that didn't have to be done on Shabbat. I know if you put yourself on a cancel list because you're hoping to get in sooner, and so there's a cancellation, they're going to call you. So sometimes there's no cancellation, you still keep the original appointment. Sometimes there is one and you can get in earlier. And sometimes, like on a Saturday, you're going to miss out on it because you are not taking those kind of calls on a Saturday. But for you to type in, I'm not available, is almost longer than saying yes or no. Okay, so if you were going to text, I would have just said yes or no, but I wouldn't be answering it. Okay?
Okay, it was the Monday. Like, I don't get those calls on.
Well, it was on the Monday for Shavuot.
So I didn't know what to do.
I wouldn't, again, they don't know that it's a holy day.
Right.
Look, here's the thing. If you have, we're going to be rational here, right? If you have an urgency, a health issue that you need to be in right away for, but they can't get you in, and then you go on the cancel list and they can get you in, and this is an urgency, yes, respond to that, okay? Where you really need to have something dealt with because you have a real problem. You broke your tooth. I mean, you actually broke it and they just can't get you in right away. And all of a sudden now they got an appointment. Fine, say yes, I can take the appointment. That's simple as that, and then you'll show up on your appointment. But if it's not something that's urgent and your original appointment is good enough, keep your original appointment and miss that contact, miss that phone call.
Okay, so next time don't even respond to them.
No, not unless you're getting a response to something that's urgent.
Okay.
Okay.
No, it was not urgent.
Yeah, if it's not urgent, keep your original appointment and see if they give you another opportunity. They might Try, again, between now and whenever your appointment was. But I wouldn't be responding on Shavuot. I wouldn't be responding on Saturday.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, and then my other question, so I'm hard of hearing. I can't always do the Zoom meetings with earbuds in, especially when I'm getting ready. I didn't hear Hannah's question this morning, but I heard some of the answer, and it was something I was trying to tell one of my kids last night. So I ran in there to the kitchen and handed him the phone. So I didn't even hear your answer because I wanted him to hear it. So is there any way you could kind of recap that?
Nope. No, seriously, I don't remember. I remember talking to Hannah. I talked to her quite a bit. Hannah's one of our seniors in South Africa. So no, I'm sorry, and we don't record it, but if I really had to think about it, ask me later. Let me see if I can run the thing back and if I can remember what I was talking to Hannah about. If you can give me a hint.
It was about like having to repent for thoughts. Like I had a thought, it was not a good thought, and should I have to repent for it? And you said something about it, it was just a fleeting thought, or I committed to the thought.
All right.
The difference.
Now I remember. Okay, so that I can address. Okay, so look, thoughts are just an idea that comes in your head, okay? Now, if you have a feeling about that thought, you may entertain that thought more than a second, okay? If you like the thought, you don't like the thought, or whatever, it's something that you're going to start thinking about. What am I going to do with this thought? An emotion will get involved there, okay? But a lot of thoughts come in our head and they go right back out because it's not something I really need to be dealing with. It's nothing I'm interested in. I don't have any emotion connected to it. It just is in and out. So as far as repenting for thoughts that you believe are problematic, if it's something that you've dwelled on, if it's something that you've meditated on, you've entertained, especially over a period of time, then you should probably repent of that, okay? Because that's where we're having the same problem as when Yeshua said, some of you out there think, hey, I'm good. I didn't kill the person. And he's like, yeah, but you wanted to. You hated them. You had this anger about them. You thought and entertained this negative aggression towards this person. You wanted harm to come to this person, okay? As opposed to having a fleeting thought of like, oh man, and then you just let it right go, okay? Because it's normal and okay and expected that we're going to have some positive and negative thoughts, some of which are not appropriate. And so if we handle them right away, there's nothing to repent about because it's not your fault the thought came to your head, okay? So I use the example many, many times because Yeshua said, about committing adultery. He says, some of you, you think, oh great, I didn't have sex with her, I didn't sleep with her, but you wanted to. He says, and so you've already committed it in your mind. You wanted to even if you didn't do it. So I use the example. Okay, you're driving down the road and there's somebody good looking, this will be for the men or the women, standing on the corner, waiting to cross the street, and you being a normal, healthy human being, notice a good looking person, okay? That's not anything that's sin. It doesn't matter if you're married or not, you can't help that, you notice a good looking person, okay? Someone that you would find attractive, okay? So by taste, okay? Everything, whatever you would think is attractive, that's what the person looks like. All right, so you notice that. And if that's all you do and you realize, but I'm married and I don't have no interest, and you just keep driving down the road, there's nothing to repent of, okay? Now, of course, if all you do after you pass is think about the person and start fantasizing about maybe meeting them, or maybe you turn the car around to get a second look. I know people that do that, okay? At least when I was much younger, all right? Teenager, college-age kids, Ooh, did you see her? Turn the car around, okay? You're all laughing, you did the same thing. All right, so, but understand that now we're taking the thought and there's a feeling about it. Oh, I liked that. I want to see more. I wonder, this, that. You start bringing more stuff into it. So now an emotion has kicked in. Same thing could be the other way around. You're driving and there's somebody that you have an issue with. And you're like, whoa. But you could just say, okay, they're there. I didn't have to talk to them and I'm just going to keep driving. Or you could start reliving and reworking how you have these negative thoughts about this person. Now you may have something to repent about, okay? Because now it's shifted into something, all right? The thought itself is just a thought. Provided, the verse says, take every thought into captivity, provided you Take it into captivity. What does captivity mean? You take it and you deal with it. Whereas you're no longer thinking about it. That's the whole captivity thing, right? I take the thought and I'm not going to think about it anymore. It was just a fleeting thing, okay? And so ladies and gentlemen, because I don't know, some of the guys may be this way too. If you're sitting at lunch and your spouse sees a pretty somebody or a good-looking somebody walk by and their head kind of goes like this for 1 second, then they come back to you, be a little reluctant to smack them and get. It's human, okay? Now, if they follow and they're completely not listening to you and they're just kind of locked in on them, all right, they might need a kick in the shin, okay? All right? But if it was one of those just quick and then back to you, you would do the same thing. People do this. You can't control it. You can't help it. We are designed to recognize stuff that attracts us, okay? By the way, if your spouse, we'll talk about men first and women, if your husband does the same thing when a car goes by of a certain model or whatever, that's the same thing. He knows that he likes that model and he's going to notice it, okay? Just like you might be driving by someplace and something that you like, or maybe you're walking through the mall and you see something in the window shopping type wise, and it catches your head and now you're walking over there, okay? We notice what we want, what we desire, what we like, but that doesn't mean you have to dwell on it. You don't have to meditate on it. You don't have to add some feeling to it, okay? So yes, once you've done all that, you need to repent of it if it's not appropriate, all right? But otherwise, give yourself some slack, give your spouse some slack, if it's just a thought that came in, okay? And then went, because we're designed to have those thoughts. How did we think we got attracted to you in the first place and married you? We started off with going, ooh. Okay, we saw you and something in our brain goes, that looks pretty good. Okay? You can't tell me that's not how it starts. Okay? Something in your brain said, I like that. Okay, I wonder if that could work, you know? Whatever the thought may be. And some of us have that thought, and then we meet the person, the thought goes right out the window. I said, okay. All right? Because at that point, it's just a thought. Now, some of you had the thought, emotions got up to it, you went and met the person and ignored all the things that should have caused you to walk away because now your emotion was already involved. You see what I'm saying? So now it wasn't just a thought. See, the first thought is, okay, there's something there that attracts me. I don't know what it is yet, and so let me go do some more research. I'm going to go see if I meet the person. And then you might find pretty quickly that, okay, this can keep getting more exploration here and figuring out, or you might be like, all right, got what I needed, nope. But that's how it always starts, okay? It always starts. Anybody have a spouse or a friend that's obsessed with a thing they want to buy or they want to own? That's the same problem. They've got an emotion attached to a thought. That's something that can be unhealthy if it's an obsession, right? All right, Selena?
So for somebody driving with introverted feeling,
okay,
like having an extra hard time with attaching that emotion to it, is there something you can do? Like?
Well, I mean, it's hard to know what you're trying to say there because introverted feeling would be about how you feel about it.
Okay.
Okay? Extroverted feeling would be about how somebody else feels about it. Okay? So if you're struggling with that FI, it's because you're struggling with being okay, allowing yourself to have a feeling about something and caring about how you feel.
Okay, so just accept that that feeling popped into your head and just kind of let it go.
Well, again, it depends on what it is. Like you may have a feeling come into your head and say, you know what, I think I want that. Whatever it is, it could be an item, it could be something. You say, I think I want that. And then if you're not healthy in your FI, you'd be like, but I'm not allowed to have good things. I'm not worthy of good things. I'm not worthy of having that thing. That's a broken FI problem. As opposed to saying, no, it's okay for me to want that. It's not wrong with that, as long as it's something that's appropriate for you to have, right? And so the same thing with the opposite. You may not like something, but feel like that's wrong because other people like it, and just because you don't like it, I must be wrong because I know other people like it. but to trust and to care for your own feeling about things and to validate your feelings about things. Okay, did that help?
I think that answered it.
Okay, good.
If it didn't, I'll drag him with me this
Okay.
week. Thank you.
You're welcome. And listen, some of you who studied some of these things like the Myers-Briggs stuff, I don't teach it exactly the way you've heard it online. Some of the things are going to be similar. I make it a lot more limited to what I think it's really supposed to be dealing with and try to focus it into the more simplistic understanding. So that's why I said, like, instead of going into what everybody says FI or FE is or whatever the letters are, it's simply feelings internally versus feelings externally. Just kind of start there. How do I feel about it? How do others feel about it? Okay? As opposed to taking it into all kinds of other directions that I don't think it was originally designed to do. Okay? Janet.
How I feel about it versus how others feel about it. Okay,
Right.
so that will be more like
In other words,
what set
but
of letters?
it's not just, it's FI and FE, but the thing is, it's introverted feeling and extroverted feeling. But the thing is, it's not just how they feel and how I feel. Which one do I care about more? Do I care more about how I feel about it, or do I care more about how they feel about it? So if everybody feels good about something that I don't, do I feel bad about it? Do I think I should feel good like they do? Do I question my own feelings? Do I feel like I have to agree with them? Do I have to be more concerned about their feelings? Or am I going to be caring more about how I feel? I say, well, I know everybody likes that, but I don't. Okay? And then I can make a choice that it's okay that I don't agree with them, and I might go with them anyway, but I have to protect that, but I don't really, want to attack the fact that I feel differently. Okay? So when it looks how you're taking in the information of his experience, which is more important to you, the way you feel, the way the other person feels?
So, okay, so I appreciate Selena's coming and what you just said right now. And it's all about, it has to do with also with Houdini, what he was saying about living in a community and not just trying to understand who I am, how I am with all my personality and Myers-Briggs and all that, but also how I can understand other people better, so I can extend more compassion and mercy and empathy to other people. Because some people are very opposite of how I am. And so one thing that I shared with Robertson last Shabbat was that to me, like when I'm with people, I feel energized. That's my personality. I feel I can spend a whole day with people, and I actually, the more more time spent with people, the better I feel. Okay, so, but I know that there's people who don't, like completely, like they get peopled out, or they get too overstimulated, whatever it is. And because I'm not like that, it's hard for me to understand it. So I like you to help me understand it a little bit better, so I can, again, my goal is really to be more understanding, with more compassionate to even my kids. I have 3 kids that are very different, like their personality and everything. And so I'm just trying to understand the personalities that are very different than me.
All right, and again, from a point of view of we're trying to become Yeshua-like, okay? And part of becoming Yeshua-like is understanding what Yeshua-like is. What is Yeshua-like? And so that's why I have you trying to understand you. And part of what I teach is helping you understand him, and part of what I teach is helping you understand you. And then you can compare the two. And then you can start to see where they're not matching up and what adjustments you need to make, okay? And part of our personalities is that there are going to be things that exhaust us or drain us and things that energize and fill us up, okay? And they're not going to be the same for people, okay? Doing what I do, like on a zone weekend, a lot of you would be totally worn out. Some of you would be very energized by it. And so, because I've had people say to me, I don't understand how you could do what you do, doing 3 Q&A sessions within less than 24 hours and answering all these questions, because my personality is energized by that, okay? Different personalities are exhausted by different things and are energized by different things, okay? And so, for example, one of the things that energized Messiah is that he would go off on his own. Okay, he found quiet time energizing him. That's to say we all need to do that. I'm just saying, but his personality was he would go off on his own. He would leave the disciples behind and everybody behind and have quiet time. There are lots of people that energizes. There are other people that it doesn't, okay? They struggle with just quiet, sitting still, and that kind of thing, all right? And so learning about yourself and learning about Messiah and seeing which parts need to match and which parts are just your different flavor. So we don't need to all go off by ourselves like he did, if that's what energized him, but he recognized something that energizes him and did those things when he needed them. We should recognize what energizes us and do those things as we need them, okay? So for example, all right, I grew up going to a beach club in the summer, all right? So my family belonged to this club, and we would go in the summer, and for a lot of people, they would just put a little blanket out or a lounge chair, a beach chair out on the beach and read a book or sit and do whatever and just relax in the sun, and that was their fun. To me, that would have been torture, okay? I couldn't see doing that. And people would want to do that or ask me to, friends would want to just sit and hang out. I was like, let's go over there and play paddleball or do tennis. Or let's do something, let's go swimming. I wanted to do something, right? Different personality. Okay? My mother still goes, okay? And she's 86 years old, she still goes. She's probably there today because she doesn't keep this. But for her, sitting, knitting, reading in the sun or whatever is relaxing and energizing, and she gets what she needs out of that. I don't know how to do that, but I'm not her. That doesn't make her better or me better, her right, me right. It's just different. But recognizing that you need to do the things that you need to balance those things out, when you need to relax. I relax differently maybe than you relax, but you need to relax. But there have been people who told me that I need to relax, but then I tell them I am doing things that I think and they're like, that's not relaxing. That's in your opinion, based on your way of approaching life. For me, this is relaxing. But you got to know you, okay? And so if you're energized by people, good. Recognizing it is step one. Because some of you, when you're exhausted, you don't know what to do to feel energized. Because you don't recognize what you do, and you feel energized when you do it. Because then if you did, then you would go do that when you need to feel energized, okay? But you're paying attention to you. Does that help?
Yes, it does. So esteeming yourself or other people, above you will be kind of like doing something that matches most of my, like I have friends. I have a friend that is close to me. She's very different than me. And so she will need that, the time alone, the one-on-one, that type of thing. So putting her first will be doing something more that is according to her like, so that we can have our quality time or whatever she needs. I'm more into groups and other things, but I know she's not. So adjusting to what your friend or your sister might need is a good way to look at it. So we'll keep building community, right? Okay.
It's always about putting somebody above you when there's a choice that it could go your way or their way, okay? Look, don't get mad at me. I always get a bunch of guys mad at me when I tell this story, but when I first got married, like most people, and I'm not ashamed to say this, my wife and I had little nicknames for each other. You might hear me even in the building. I'll yell across the building and call her Honey Bun or Honey Bunny, that kind of thing. That was our little thing. And so I recognized very quickly when we got married, because we didn't actually know each other very long before we got married. So when we got married, we got to know each other pretty much after getting married. And I realized that there were a lot of things that she liked to do that I had no interest in whatsoever, but I wanted her to be happy. So I had to figure out a way to do some of the things she liked to do, so she'd have me to do it with her instead of, obviously we're married now. We don't want to just do everything on our own, separately. And so I came up with this idea that would work for me. It had to do with really the idea of esteeming someone above yourself. I created what I called Honey Bunny Day, where on a Sunday, we just go do whatever she wanted, and my attention, though, was focused on her having a good time. She was happy. I had a good red goal, a result I was looking for. See, I found a way to take my colors and my personality and gear it to something that was going to help her. Instead of sitting there going, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this. When is it? Are we done? You know, okay? I could have, any of the things we did, I could have felt that way. Like one time we went and did nothing but walk around the mall and window shop. Okay? And you know what? I had a great time. Because I wasn't focused on the window shopping or the fact that I hated it. I just focused on her. I was esteeming someone above myself. Okay? So we went and did lots of things. There's a nice, beautiful little town called Helen. Okay, it's a little Bavarian town here in North Georgia. We went there one time, and we just walked around. And I don't like to just walk around. I'm not a sightseeing guy. I'm not a going into little cute shops type of guy or any of that stuff that she loves to do. But I focused on her. And so essentially that's like esteeming her above myself, right? And guess what? I got a lot out of it by doing that. That's part of what Yeshua was talking about and the scripture talks about. If you would elevate someone and prefer them over yourself in a way that's not hurting you, that's not diminishing yourself, right? I mean, I didn't need to be doing anything on that Sunday, so I just decided I was giving her the day, okay? And then we go and do things that I normally wouldn't do, but it's easier for me because now I've shifted my brain, knowing my personality, into a focus that would work to do stuff I wouldn't normally want to do. Because now it wasn't about what we were doing, it was about that I was esteeming her, okay? First time I taught this was like in 2000, and I had four guys come up to me afterwards and say, if you ever do anything like that in public again, we're all going to kill you. Our wives are now going to expect us all to do this. It was at Sukkot. We had probably 35 people at the Sukkot. It was very small, one of our first Sukkots, and I had a bunch of guys ready to kill me. I said, look, it works for me. You do what you want with your wives. This is what I did, okay? Because I recognized, now this may not be the same thing with most husbands and wives. My wife and I are very opposite in a lot of ways. So we don't like a lot of things the same. There are lots of things we like the same, but there's lots of things we don't. So in order for her to have me do things with her or her to do things with me, we'd have to do this esteeming the other above, okay? I was just looking over here, talking to Janet a little bit. So, right, we have to esteem one above the other. It's the only way to get this to work. Because I have things that I like to do that she really doesn't like, but if she's gonna do them with me, I love that she would do it with me. She loves it when I do these things with her, knowing full well I don't really like to do these things, okay? And so we find that balance to find a way to esteem the other at times above ourselves so that they're getting what they need and they get to enjoy it with you, which is the same thing that most of the time I'm happy to just give her the remote. I know that's really strange to some of you guys. I don't know why guys have an obsession with the remote. I don't care, okay? And so watch what you want. I'll just put a headset on and watch what I want on the laptop or something else. I mean, I don't care what you do. Why should I control everything? Okay, that's your thing. Anyway, now all you wives, don't go to your husbands and smack them because they won't give you the remote, okay? And you should offer it back to him in case there is something important that he wants. My wife always does, so she always asks, hey, is it okay if I watch something? She wants to know if there's anything important I'm doing, and I said, sometimes I'll say, look, as soon as I finish this, and most of the time it's like, no, go ahead. When I say most, I mean like 90%. But that's because I'm trying to esteem her over me. Because unless I actually have a need, by the way, you women know how to do this because you do that with your children. Your children want something or need something, you put them over you often. So why wouldn't husbands do that for their wives? Wives do it for their children, okay? We need to learn to be able to put others above ourselves when ourselves don't really need, okay? Want, maybe, yes, but not need. Does that make any sense to anybody? All right, Frederick.
I have something that I'm changing how I'm thinking about me, but because change is, I don't know, uncertainty, and I'm not sure whether I made the right change or what. It's hindering my ability to stick with it.
Okay.
So.
That was completely unclear and ambiguous, but go ahead. Go ahead and say what you want to say.
I had been previously so over the way I was that I wasn't esteeming myself at all. So when anybody in the room goes, we love Frederick, I was like, well, I don't know, I guess that says something good about them. I didn't take it
Right.
myself.
Unhealthy FI.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now I understand myself a little bit better and went, okay, so maybe me being me, because I tend to be all in, that is received well because people like it when people really pay attention. Mm-hmm. And that's just natural to me. I don't know how to do it any other way. It's just
Right.
the way I'm wired.
Right.
So is that a better, or is, yeah.
Look, some of the things that you do by default, because it's just you, will work beautifully for other people. Like you said, you tend to be able to focus and give attention when someone's talking to you.
But what I'm saying is that a better, my own interpretation of the way of receiving that?
That's what I'm getting to.
Okay.
Okay, that was half of it. So first I'm saying is a lot of you out there, including Frederick, have things you do and you don't need to take any credit for it because it's just being you, which is what he started off by saying. He said, I just do that. But then you need to then receive that it is a blessing to someone. It's appreciated to someone. It's a value to someone. And so you should be able to receive that, even though it was no effort, because it's really the way you normally would be. But then you can say, oh, I'm so glad me being me was a blessing to you. Okay? Almost every compliment you guys give me is that. I'm just being me. And some of you appreciate some of the things that come out of me being me. And so when you compliment me, I appreciate that me being me was a blessing or helped you in some way or whatever. And so, not a lot of people, by the way, are able to give somebody full attention when they're talking. Now, you happen to do that anyway, well, great, but that's also really appreciated by people. So you should receive it as something that was a blessing to them. They appreciated that you do that, even though it took no effort on your part, because it's how you normally are, right? So it doesn't mean that it has to be an effort in order to take it as a compliment. It's just, the natural thing about that, okay? My daughter sings all day long. My daughter sings in front of you guys. I give her compliments all the time. She should take them as something that blesses other people, even though it's just her being her, okay? And so that's, hopefully, Frederick, the same thing for you. You should be able to receive something because you heard them say, I appreciate that you do this. All right, did that help? All right, good. Okay, Monique.
Shalom.
I see that you're now fully in the swing of that. You live here now, so you can get up on the mic.
Yeah, what? I actually have been trying to formulate my question pretty much the whole time, and I can't really get there. So I think what I'm going to try to do is speak and see what happens.
That's what most people do. So.
All right, let's go. Okay, so I feel like pretty much my whole life, and this has been the theme like in all the zones, and so that's part of why I'm getting up here is a lot of people talking about people pleasing and things like that. So I kind of take a different approach when it comes to that. Like I think about people pleasing, a lot of the time we think we are trying to please somebody else. But the way I think about it sometimes is it can be actually more selfish because most of the time when we're people pleasing, we're trying to mitigate a certain response or we don't want to hurt someone's feelings or whatever else, which a lot of the time to me ultimately ends up about us. Meaning like we care about how other people will see us or how they'll respond or whatever else.
Okay, so let me just stop there for a second. Okay, I want to make sure we're separating two issues. Doing something to someone else's benefit is not the same thing as being a pleaser. Okay, when you're in people pleasing, it's all about you. Okay? Because you are looking for some result or you're looking to avoid some consequence. If I don't please them, I'm going to get a consequence, or if I do please them, I'm going to get something that I want, but it becomes about you. As opposed to when I say, you know what, I want to please my wife and give her the remote. It's not about me. I'm not getting anything out of it. I'm just trying to give to somebody else. But if you're in pleaser mode, that means that you're looking for something out of that. It's about you. You're either wanting to avoid a consequence, because if I'm not a pleaser, I'm going to be in trouble. If I don't please this person, there's going to be a negative consequence. That's more often than if I please them, I'll get something beneficially. Most people do the pleaser thing to avoid a negative consequence, in their mind, to avoid a negative consequence. Can we agree? Okay? So pleaser mode is not a healthy place to be. Okay? You want to do things for other people. That's not pleaser mode. I hope it's pleasing to them. Pleaser mode, though, is I don't want them to yell at me, so I'm just going to do what they say. I don't want this to happen, so you're avoiding a consequence that you want to avoid. Okay, there's something negative you're trying to avoid. Does that understand what you're trying to say?
Exactly.
Okay.
Thanks for that. So over the last a little bit over 2 years, actually it's been longer than 2 years now, I recognized that in myself, and I hated it because I felt like I was becoming angry and bitter, and almost like incongruent. So my internal wasn't matching like what I was doing. So I was doing this thing, but inside I really felt like I was in a war with myself.
Okay, hold on. Hold that thought. Don't lose where you're going. All of you need to hear this. You want to be unhappy, or if you're already unhappy, it's probably because you are not congruent. What you're doing outwardly and what you're feeling inwardly don't match. You're not being true to yourself, okay? And you need to fix that or you won't be happy, okay? At least not over long periods of time, because that has to be in sync. It has to be congruent, okay? How you feel about you and the things you're doing and the way people, it doesn't matter how they're responding, what you're doing, okay? Because if you're doing stuff that really doesn't match up with what you think you should and really want to be doing, but you're doing it for the wrong reason, that's going to make you angry inside. You're going to be at war inside, like she was saying, okay? You have to have it be, both things are in the same alignment, okay? I'm doing this because inside it's what I want to do. It's true to me. It is me, okay? Now, if it's me and I don't like it, then I need to change the inside and the outside, not one or the other. Both have to change because they both have to be aligned, all right? Now, some of you, just to interrupt for a second, some of you are wondering, what's with all of this stuff? You know what? If you learn this stuff I'm teaching you, the next time you read anybody in this book, you'll start to understand why they did what they did, what was driving them. And one of these days, we're going to go to Genesis and work our way all the way through and look at the individuals and the choices they made and what was going on in their inside and outside, like how they behaved outside based on how they were feeling inside, things that we can read out of the way that they handled things. And you can kind of understand them better as you relate to them, okay? Like what was going on in David for him to love his son so much that he would blind himself to all the things his son was doing. But he did, okay? And some of us can relate to that because you love people in your life that are just toxically just horrible, but you just want to see them the way you want to see them, okay? And so we can start to relate to some of these people in a much more real way, okay? Go ahead.
Yeah, that's really good. So that kind of actually leads me to, I feel like I've been in this transitory state for a while where I'm recognizing I can't live like that anymore. But what happens when it's almost like you're put up against two choices, which obviously we have these decisions we have to make, but they almost seem like they're taking you in two separate directions. And how do you almost like realign yourself to remember like that you're getting into that congruence once again?
All right. When you're making choices, probably counsel is the best thing for this reason. If you're going to make a choice that's going to be out of congruence, out of sync, if it's going to be a new way of going, that could be real problematic. I would want to put my internal balance above anything external, even though you may have to subjugate it for a situation, which is fine if it's for a situation. That's why you get counsel. But if it's going to start to really become a change that ends up being longer term and continuing, and it's going to really mess you up, then you may need to get counsel maybe not to do that. Whereas doing it for a one-off type of thing where you're just going to do it, it's going to get this thing handled, it's worth doing it under the situation, probably not going to happen again or whatever, then it may be wisdom to do it anyway, right? It's just a matter of which price you want to pay, because sometimes you can't just have the congruence where they both line up perfectly, okay? In other words, what I want for inside and what I want for outside can't happen. Because if I do what needs to happen outside, I'm going to be upset inside. If I do what has to be inside, they're going to be upset outside. How do I balance that? Okay, so it's a no-win situation, so then you got to decide which one wins, okay? If you're more of an E or an external person, the external will probably win. If you're more of an internal person, the internal will probably win, okay? And so that's where counseling might come in, all right?
So thanks for that, because I was thinking about kind of to the start of what I'd brought up about selfishness. I feel like my previous selfishness was negative because what I was doing was I was being at war, right? Because I was people pleasing. But this selfishness, it feels more positive. And it's hard for me because I am that, E, so I'm always thinking about everybody else and how they feel and what they think. But there's this part of me that is really like, it's a very strong feeling where it's that I feel like I have to be selfish right now, in order to achieve the growth or what I'm trying to do in my life.
All right, let me change the wording a little bit, all right? I don't want you to think that when you're doing things for your internal health, for yourself, being self-protective, that means you're being selfish, okay? I mean, sometimes you are being selfish. I'm saying, but the way you described it, it sounds like you're doing something for self-protection, for what your self needs. That's not selfish, okay? It's selfish when you do things for you at the expense of other people that you really don't need to do, but you're just doing it because you want to be all about you, okay? That's where it becomes selfish, okay? So protecting yourself or doing what yourself needs in a situation over what someone else might need isn't selfish. It's trying to do something for yourself because you need something, otherwise you're gonna have a bigger problem. All right, so that's kind of where that kind of would play into, okay? And think of it this way too. If you are a people pleaser, that means you're not a self-pleaser. You can't be both. If you're a self-pleaser, you're not a people pleaser, okay? So I can do something that I will enjoy doing for you, then I'm not people pleasing and I'm not necessarily self-pleasing, I'm just doing the thing. So when you put the word pleaser on the end of it, it's an out of balance. As a self-pleaser, it's at the expense of somebody. As a people pleaser, it's at the expense of you. I can do for you, that's not at the expense of anybody. I'm okay with it for me, and I'm glad to be doing it for you. It's at nobody's expense. You see the difference? Okay? All right, good. Chris.
In Genesis 8, so you were talking about promises versus covenants.
Yes.
Even though in the places where he's just making a promise, he doesn't have any expectation of the other party, he still calls it a covenant. So I was looking at the Hebrew, it said the word has to do with cutting. So cutting something, like with Noah in Genesis 8, we're talking about, I was thinking it was kind of like related to when he was making the altar to Yahweh at the end of the chapter, and he has to cut all these animals.
Right.
Cut them open and
Right.
the blood of the covenant, right?
The covenant of the pieces.
Yeah, so that way they're cutting the animals.
Right.
And then in Genesis 12, every time there's a promise made, Abraham is cutting, he's building altars, in different places and cutting animals. And also in chapter 15, there's the two pieces of each animal going through, that Yahweh goes through. Mm-hmm. And each of those times, Yahweh's making a promise, and the cutting is happening to the animals. But then the place where it switches, right, is in Genesis 17, when Yahweh actually expects Abraham, okay, we're doing this, where I expect you to get circumcised and do all this. And I didn't see any cutting of animals, but I still saw a cutting, still a covenant, but the covenant was cutting the foreskin.
Right.
So it was a different kind of cutting.
Right.
It was still a covenant, but it was cutting something different. It was cutting the person. So in this case, we're actually having expectation for us to do things versus cutting animals, which there is no expectation on us. Mm-hmm. Would that be a way kind of resolve the promises versus covenants, even though they're both called covenants?
Well, it's just that, again, when we talked about the covenant, it's an agreement between parties where there's expectations that are set by the parties, and so promises that are made from Yahweh, and then we make agreements to keep our side of things. And so, yeah, that fits into it. And then, of course, this idea of a cutting, there seems to be a linkage there, okay?
Yeah, because there has to be, if there's going to be blood,
Yep.
then you have to cut something.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. And so we call the covenant the Brit, okay? The Brit is the covenant. And so circumcision is called Brit Milah. So there's a cutting or a covenant of milah. Okay.
Hey, if Yeshua was to take that Myers-Briggs test, what do you think he would be?
All right, so this is a good question because it lets me answer it this way. Okay, I want you guys to all stop, whatever color you are, think that that's all you are. I don't want you to think that you're the 4 letters. I want you to understand that at times you have different colors or different aspects of your letters that are either functioning or not functioning or malfunctioning or dysfunctioning, okay? So when a person is talking about certain things that are going on inside emotionally, that could be an FI thing, okay? That doesn't mean that FI has to be one of your letters, but that could be the thing that's happening at that moment, all right? Okay, your letters may not even give you something that, you're talking about going on. I go, well, that's whatever it is. And you go, well, that's not in my letters. Well, because you have all 8 functions, all right? There are 4 functions in 2 directions. You've got feeling, thinking, intuition, and sensing. But you've got them internally and externally. You have all of them. So when you ask me to identify, the letters for one of these people in the scriptures, lots of people love to do these kind of things. You can find them on the internet, famous people, movie characters, whatever. It doesn't matter. I think they want the letters to do more than they're meant to do, okay? Because we start bringing in other motivations and drivers, which I think things like colors take care of, or other things that affect what you're doing, things like maybe the Enneagram. You don't even know what I'm talking about there. And the Enneagram covers, okay, there's 9 different aspects of that. There's lots of other things and aspects to your personality. So I'm not really going to sit here and try to give letters to Yeshua. Yeshua had all 8 functioning very well, okay? And you need to have all 8 functioning very well. And it's when you struggle, it's because one or more of them is not functioning properly. And when you do well, it's because it's functioning very well, all right? And so I'd rather you understand them from that point of view. Look, I have measurably, according to a test, 0 blue and 0 white. But I promise you, I do blue things and white things occasionally. Now, I do them through a dominant red aspect, but I'm still doing a blue thing or a white thing. It just doesn't come up on the test because there's not enough of it to be measured in a 45-question test. But I need all 4 colors, and I need all 8 aspects of the cognitive functions, and you need all of these things. And you need them to be functioning well, okay, to be good in that area, okay? The letters more deal with information and how you process it. The colors deal more with what drives you, what motivates you, what's your motivator, okay? So thank you for the question, Rick, because I appreciate giving me the chance to give that answer. I don't want us to get looking to label and box people in, all right? I took the test, I'm an ENTP. That only limits me to 4 letters, or really 2 letters and just 2 aspects. ENTP has me extroverted intuition and introverted thinking. So that's just 2 letters and 1 direction each. Now they can extrapolate out extroverted feeling and introverted sensing as part of those 4. That's still only 4 of the 8. Okay? So when I teach you this, I want to make sure you are looking at your life and how well all 8 are functioning. And you may have some that are functioning better than others, more often than others. Okay? Just like the aspects of the colors may be functioning more often or less often than others. So that you understand why you do well and why you struggle in various things. Okay? And then you'll also understand better why these people in your scriptures did well at times and struggled with other things. All right? And that will help you to understand. You know, because you might look at somebody like, I don't know, let's look at Peter. You see the way he behaves and acts, you right away you know that you're dealing with at least some good amount of blue. Okay? Because he's going to take things personally and he's going to jump right out there and take action, you know, and try to cut a person's head off. Or he's going to say, oh no, master, don't wash my feet, you know. Oh, never mind, wash me all from head to toe. I mean, he's just blue all day long. Okay? And so you look at and you can see some things to help you understand them a little better. Okay? Because he's being driven by a very strong sense of right and wrong. That's blue. Okay? That doesn't mean they're right about what's right and wrong, but they have their own very strong sense of what they think is right and wrong. through their perception. Peter thought this was wrong what the guy did. He went to kill him. He thought it was wrong for Yeshua to wash his feet. He said, no. Okay? Yeshua said some things about dying. He's like, no, don't. Be nice to yourself. Don't say those things. You know? Okay? So you can understand, I won't even get into the letters with him, but I'm just at least you can see the colors right there. All right? You can see that blueness in there. Okay? All right? So that's kind of what we're dealing with and looking at these people. Okay? Now, I hope that was good. Zone 1.